Thank you for attending this segment of SmartSearch's Smart Leadership webinar series. My name is Bill Inman. I am the Executive Vice President at SmartSearch. As many of you know, SmartSearch was one of the earliest innovators in the applicant tracking industry. We have some clients that have been with us since we first launched over 35 years ago, who have evolved with us and are still using our powerful, current and modern talent management platform. That being said, we've always been excited to bring the best technology, tools, and information to the staffing industry and recruiting disciplines, and today is no exception, as we are thrilled to bring to you the Recruitment Marketing Masterclass. As we go through this session, please log your questions in the Zoom app. We'll be stopping and making this interactive during the meeting. We'll take your questions and look forward to addressing them. And our session today has been a very popular topic, and we've had a flood of registrants. This is probably because we have a very distinguished speaker who is a guru of recruiting marketing, David Searns. Many of you have probably seen David speak at staffing industry events or through webinars. I recently saw him give a great presentation at the California Staffing Professionals Conference. David is CEO or co-CEO of Haley Marketing, one of the top recruitment marketing companies. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's a Wharton MBA grad. He has more than 25 years of marketing experience in the staffing industry. He's also one of the most sought after speakers in the industry and has helped thousands of staffing companies and employers improve their recruitment marketing results. David, thank you so much for being here today and presenting the Recruitment Marketing Masterclass. Let me hand off to you.
All right, so let's get things kicked off. So what's the problem? Well, it's really no secret that we're facing a rather challenging economy when it comes to recruiting. If you look at the unemployment rates, you can see the graph here shows basically April to April, 21 to 22, and the last several months have been flat. We went from what was considered statistical full employment, which is about 4.5% to 5%, down to we're maintaining at 3.6% unemployment. So that's not all. Labor force participation. During the pandemic, not a big surprise, it crashed. Companies laid off people. They couldn't go to work. What the surprise was to everybody is they didn't come back. And labor force participation rate is hovering around 62%. If you go back in time, that's what it used to be back in 1977. And in relatively round numbers, that's 4.2 million people who have left the workforce in the past 2 years. And if you look at the number of job openings versus people available to fill those jobs, guess what? That gap's around 4 million people, almost the same number. If we can get more people off the sidelines, we can fill those open requisitions. But I don't know about you, but I am done with the Great Resignation. Done. I've had it. We've had enough resignations. It's affected everybody, big companies, small companies, little companies like Haley Marketing. Well, in 2021, we had 19.3% of the workforce retire versus 15.8 back in 2008. So more people are retiring. And then add on top of that, all of the people who have probably rightfully believed, you know, if you don't treat me exactly the way I want to be treated, I'm out of here. I want unlimited time off. I want 50% increase in my pay. I want a manager who treats me nice. I want social good in the world. And if I don't get all those things, I'm just going to go to the company down the street. Now that may be changing. We're seeing obviously some layoffs in the technical world. We're seeing some leveling off in other parts of the economy. We're seeing the R word recession mentioned all over the place, whether you want to debate whether or not we're in it. Hopefully that actually will create a positive impact on quit rates. But right now, for most of us, we've been dealing with the better part of a year of almost unprecedented high levels of attrition. I was joking that over the last 7 months, I think my new job title is not co-CEO, it is Director of HR, because I think we've lost 8 and hired 15. And that's just too much for our little company. So, all right. But it's not just people quitting. Again, I mentioned retiring going up, the baby boomers. So that their rate of retirement accelerated as well. And we saw a dramatic increase at the end of 2021, where they are retiring at a faster rate than was forecast. And again, What are you talking about? You're talking about what was the largest percentage of the US workforce pulling themselves out of the workforce at a faster rate without sufficient people to fill in the gaps. So, when you add all this up, what do you get? Well, you get a lot of headaches. And if you're in staffing, hopefully this doesn't affect our corporate HR people as much, but if you're in staffing, you also get that compounded with the fact that we have higher levels of no call, no show than we've ever seen. In some segments of the staffing industry, I'm seeing clients are getting 50% no call, no show rates. I don't know how you plan on having double your workforce ready to go to work every day because half the people aren't going to show up. And the next slide says it all. Are we having fun yet? This is not an easy challenge, but I didn't want to spend any more than just a few minutes. I think you guys know what's going on in the economy. I think you feel the pain every single day of the recruiting challenges. So let's really get this class started. It's time to have some fun. And we're going to go through 5 strategies, 5 things that you can do to master recruitment marketing. Now, this is not everything in the world of recruitment marketing because we only have a little less than an hour to talk with one another. But these 5 strategies can make a dramatic impact on getting your open jobs filled. Now, before we get into the strategies, I want to give you a definition. So a really simple one. So you can go to Google and you can look for the definition of the word recruitment marketing. But we have a really simple one in Haley Marketing. We just say recruitment marketing, it's everything that goes into getting the right people to click the apply button. So we have to think about how do we win over those right people? How do we find those right people? How do we get them to want to work with us? And to do that, we're going to start with something that's from the marketing world. And there's an acronym in marketing called AIDA, A-I-D-A, and this little diagram kind of shows you what it stands for. These are the stages that go into the marketing funnel, and it applies to selling, it applies to business marketing, and it applies to recruitment marketing. So we have to go through awareness, interest, desire, and action. Now, what does that mean when it comes to recruiting? So the awareness stage is we have to get people aware, not just of your jobs, but aware of the fact that their life could be better and status quo is not making them happy. In fact, that's a pretty easy one to be aware of because unhappiness in the workforce is at all-time high levels. But we have to create awareness of the fact that life could be better. Now, ultimately, it's going to come down to by working with your company. But the first thing we have to do in marketing is to break through the clutter of the 10 million things in Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn and get someone to be aware that there's a better life ahead. Then we have to create interest. Now, awareness is like holding up a stop sign. It gets people to look around. Interest is getting them to then be curious. I want to learn more. You can see it on screen. Hey, this sounds interesting. I like this. What do you mean I can have a job that has more flexibility? I can work remote. I can be in a better work environment. I can have more flexibility for my family. I can increase my pay. I can live a better life. There's so many benefits that come from a new job, so many benefits that come from your organization and your employment brand. But the interest comes from the value of those benefits. What is it going to do for people? What problems does it solve? The awareness phase are the problems. The benefits phase are the interest. And then we get to the desire. I want this. I want to work for you. You're a great company. These are the things that you do. These are the attributes of your organization that make you unique. These are the things that help you to stand out. When we're doing recruitment marketing, very often we're trying to start with the desire. Here's a job, apply to it. Because that's the last thing is the action. I just applied. But we're not starting high enough up in the funnel. If we don't get people's attention, create awareness, they're never going to get to the jobs. If we're only advertising on the major job boards, we're only going people who are already at the desire phase of getting a new job. If you are in staffing, 80% of the people who are looking for a job don't think about you as a staffing company. Only about 20% do. We have to get the awareness and interest of those other 80%. And then there's those passive job seekers. They're not on the job boards. So if we start at the desire phase, we're missing out on the masses who would be open to a better life, a better company, a better job if we can do that awareness and interest. So now we're going to pivot. And I want you to remember this AIDA model as we go through these 5 strategies. The first one, fix the last mile. And I would argue that of all the strategies, this one could have the biggest impact on your results. We have seen examples from lots of staffing organizations where, and this is a worst case scenario, 95% of the candidates who are showing up, even starting to apply for a job, never finish the application. So that's 19 out of every 20 people that you paid to get to your website. You advertised to them, you spent time on social media, you direct recruited them, they didn't apply. So we have to think about, well, how do we get those people who are already checking out your website and your career site? How do we get them to that last mile? So fixing the last mile starts with the job itself. Are we offering people the best possible jobs? So if you look at some of the data from the American Staffing Association, what do people want? Well, clearly, I want a good pay rate. But right now, the number 2 benefit is flexibility. Then some of the benefits people want. Look at the jobs that, if you're in HR, look at the jobs your company is offering compared to other alternatives that people could apply to. Do we offer the best option? If you're in staffing, what jobs do you represent? Do you represent jobs that are the most desirable in the market? If you have clients that have less desirable jobs, how are you working with those clients to find ways to make every job as desirable as it can be? And then job posts. Most recruiters are very well trained how to be good recruiters. Very few are trained to be good copywriters. Very few have websites designed to really show off the job post. And if you think about the job post, it is not an online job description. That's a bad habit that we all developed back in the 1990s. Thank you, Monster and Career Builder. Because once upon a time, we used to advertise jobs in a newspaper where we had to be very cognizant of how much space did we use and how compelling was that ad when it was in a sea of other ads in the classifieds. So we were really good copywriters back in the 80s and early 90s. Then along came the job boards and said, you have infinite space. And so people, recruiting professionals, found that it was easier to take a job description and post it as a job post. But a job post is an advertisement. It has the AIDA model. You have to get people's attention to see your job post. You have to get their interest. You have to sell the what's in it for me to make them want to apply. This example here from AAA did a really nice job of summarizing benefits so I can skim their ads, their job posts, know exactly what they're offering and why I might be interested without having to do a lot of reading. Yes, people are lazy, they don't read. So we need to make sure our job posts are really easy for people to pick up what you want them to know, what they're going to want to know about what you're offering. And they have to be easy to find within your website. How many people have a career site? Now, this doesn't happen in staffing, but it happens in corporate HR, where it's only a link hidden at the bottom of the footer of your website. Okay, if I really am caring about finding the best internal talent, I should make those jobs easier to find. They should be off the contact page. They should be in the about section. If I'm in staffing, as soon as I come to your website, the first thing I should see is the ability to get to those jobs, apply to those jobs. I'll tell you firsthand personal mistake experience. So learn from someone who's been doing this a long time, and even when you're doing it a long time, you make mistakes. I got in the habit of wanting to help our clients create more attractive, more streamlined websites. So we would minimize the top navigation, going to only single words, jobs or careers, services, about. And we tried to reduce the number of options to keep that navigation really clean. You know what we took out of the navigation? The words search jobs. We put that underneath a jobs dropdown. Guess what? The number of people going to the jobs page declined when we made that change. Put the things onto your website that make it super easy to find. Here's the job we have, and you're drawing people's eye to it with search boxes and buttons and graphics and text links. There's an example of it on a website. Big, bold, stand out. I can do a search right from any page of the website where they have this little widget, this box that allows this company to search for healthcare professionals. And then really as easy as possible to apply. And I'm going to show you a ridiculous example right now. But that
Wait, David.
Yes,
Hi, it's Sylvia. We have a couple of questions coming in right now that I wanted to throw out there while you're on this part, because one of the questions is on this jobs page, where is the optimum place to put your Career Center link and your jobs link? Because some people have it on top, some people have it on the bottom, some people make it kind of invisible. So what would you recommend as far as where is the most eye-catching or inviting place to actually put your jobs section?
So if you're in staffing, recruiting, main navigation should have search jobs. If you're in corporate HR and your site is about something other than getting people a job, I would make sure it's on the contact page. If you're really struggling to recruit, I might temporarily add a little extra navigation button at the very top, offset from everything else, saying, hey, find a job with us, because people want to work for companies they like, companies where they buy products and services. And then Sylvia, the next thing is I'm going back to that Indeed example. Above the fold homepage, you want to have some sort of search box. So I can go right from there. If you're in temporary staffing or executive recruiting, anywhere from 75 to 90% of people visiting your website are job seekers. Let's allow them to run that job search right from the beginning of the homepage.
Yeah, that's a huge number. And I love that reference to above the fold. That's so old school. So
and for those who may know what I'm talking about means without a scroll.
Yes, no scrolling. So the other question that come in is what exactly you had referred earlier to job flexibility, right? That job seekers or anyone for that matter wants more flexibility. Is that primarily working from home, or are there other ideas around job flexibility?
So you can almost look at a hierarchy of fully on-site, hybrid, remote, set your own schedule. So some companies are going so far as there's 7 days in a week. There's stuff to get done. We're going to measure what gets done. You choose when you do it. Now, if you're in a client-facing role, there may be certain hours you have to be there for your clients. But we're seeing a lot of companies that have people in non-client-facing roles, particularly technology roles, hit the deliverables and work whenever you'd like. So the idea is the more you can give people control over when they work, where they work, how they work, the more desirable they're going to find the job.
Thank you. That actually floats right into the last question for this section is, what do you think is more important then? Do you think it's about the pay rate? You know, you mentioned people are retiring, you know, it's like, is this really about pay rate or is it flexibility? What do you think are the top things that candidates really want, or what should be emphasized in the job description?
Where's option D, all of the above? I'm reading data that says people will take less money for flexibility. I will tell you, as an employer who offers flexibility, we're at that highest level of just get the job done and you can work whatever hours you want. If your pay rate is not middle of the market or better, you're still going to lose people. And right now, you know, we're seeing it's really big companies, mostly sucking companies out of people out of smaller companies, because they're offering pay rates that are 30 to 50% higher than what had been market rates. And that one I don't have an answer for, but I do think pay is still number one to everybody.
Wow. Thank you. That'll be it for now. And people, reminder, you can add your questions to the chat as we go along. We'll answer as many as we can, and then some may be held till the end, and any unanswered questions will be answered offline. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Sylvia. So there's one last thing on this particular slide, which was making it easy to apply. Now, in an ideal world, you offer the ability for people to apply online where they can upload their resume, but maybe they can use one click, apply with Indeed, or maybe they can apply with LinkedIn. Maybe they can use their social connections just to fill in the forms. The easier you can make it for people to apply, the higher the application rate will go. And this is a specific example. We had a client in light industrial staffing that had a full application form. And this is one of those companies that was getting that 95% abandonment rate on their application form. We said, can we just kill your online application and just ask people to submit a resume? And they said, David, you're nuts. We're dealing with people in blue collar jobs. They don't have resumes. I said, yeah, but you're not getting any people filling out your application. Let's just try it. This company was averaging 7 applications a week. When we made the switch to upload your resume that supposedly none of these people had, the very first month they made that switch, they received 8 2,000 applications. From 7 a week to 2,000 a week. Make it easy to apply. All right, next thing, giving people a reason to take action. Not everybody's ready to apply for a job. Maybe you can offer them a job agent. Maybe you can allow them to skip the search. Maybe you can allow them to just see, is your resume a fit for this job, so they can kind of grade themselves. Maybe they want to talk to a recruiter before they apply. Maybe they just want to download some content because they're not ready to get a job today, but they'd like to start to get to know your company. So think about all the reasons a potential candidate is at your website and how can you engage them by giving them different actions they can take. And then give people a reason to come back. We need to think about talent re-engagement, whether that's through automation platforms that we'll talk more about later, simple job agents and email marketing, or ongoing nurturing. We have to give people reasons to come to our website over and over and over again. Some of the data we looked at in Google Analytics said that a job seeker who comes back to your website a second time is 2 times as likely to apply to a job. So we spend all this money to get people there the first time, and most companies spend a grand total of 0 to bring them back a second time. Whether it's through retargeting advertising or email marketing or automation, we got to get people coming back. All right, that was our first strategy. On to number 2. So job advertising. Most of you are probably spending a lot of money on job advertising. It's time to get more from that spend. And what we're really looking to do is increase the volume of jobs we're sponsoring. There's been some advice from the job boards to either increase your budget and or reduce the number of jobs you're sponsoring. Our data says that's usually not good advice. Increase distribution. Can we get more paid and more free distribution? Because we don't know where a candidate might come across our job. So if we have low-cost ways to be in more places, let's get the jobs in front of more people. Probably the most important thing we're going to talk about in this section is eliminating your wasted spend. So this diagram will help show what I mean by that. We're looking at traditional ways to do job ads versus what is called programmatic job advertising. So with traditional ads, whether it's job slots or pay-per-click advertising, you have jobs that you're sponsoring. They're going to go on Indeed and on ZipRecruiter and on other sites. And some of those jobs are easier to fill than others. So in this diagram, jobs 1 and jobs 2 are pretty desirable. Lots of people apply. More than needed. Those little red figures represent excess candidates, more than are needed to fill the role. And what happens is all those people are applying to those jobs. You're excited to get all the applications, but really you're overspending on those jobs and it's eating up the budget that could have gone to job 3 and job 4. So programmatic, it's using software. And what it does is it sets rules and it says, hey, when we get enough candidates for certain jobs, shift the spend elsewhere. Now, there's lots more you can do it besides just the number of candidates. But the idea is I'm putting more emphasis in advertising on the jobs that need it most and less on the jobs that are easy to fill to get more candidates for more jobs. On average, our clients are seeing it reduces the cost per apply by about 30% within 6 months. So if you're not already doing pay-per-click advertising, this is the first strategy, is to get off job slots. Job slots are grossly inefficient. There is nobody who can, in real time, keep up with changing jobs in job slots like you can do with pay-per-click model. So the advantage, with pay-per-click, no minimums or maximums. You can vary your spend with your needs, and you can allocate your budget to the jobs that need it. With slots, you're limited. I've got so many openings I can put jobs into. I'm doing it for a fixed monthly spend. If it's my busy season, I don't have any more slots available. If it's my slow season, I'm paying for slots I didn't need. So going from slots to pay-per-click gives you more control over your budget. Then we want to automate that pay-per-click. This is where programmatic comes into play. So we can cut overspending through automatic reallocation of funds. That's kind of the picture I just showed you. We can get greater budget flexibility. In any month, we could put more money in or spend less money on job advertising. We can test job titles. What if we ran the same job with different job titles to see, hey, would more people apply? You'll see an example of this in just a second. We can geographically expand ads. say, well, if this ad is based in Cleveland, Ohio, or the job is, what happens if we target it to surrounding towns around Cleveland? Might we get more people to apply? Can we actually start to track the sources so we know which job boards are really delivering candidates at the best price and the candidates we place at the lowest cost per placement? So here's 3 examples, real companies. These are all in the staffing industry. The left column or the center column here shows what these companies were getting when they were doing manual job posting. A healthcare company was getting 29 applies at about $55 per job application. When they switched to programmatic, they got 40 applies at $43 per application. So big decline in cost, and what do you have there? A 33% roughly increase in the number of applications at a lower cost per apply. Light industrial, this one, the numbers just get crazy. From 568 applies to 915. Their cost per apply went down by almost 50% using these techniques of automatic relocation, job title testing, geographic expansion, and source tracking to figure out where to put their money. And professional staffing went from 76, look at this, to 385 applies, cutting the cost per apply in half. They ended up increasing their budget because they were getting so many more candidates to fill their openings as they discovered where to spend their money. This is the power of programmatic, is it gives you the control over where you advertise, how you advertise to maximize applies and or reduce cost per click, cost per apply. As I mentioned, on average, our clients are seeing a 30% drop in that cost per apply within 6 months. All right, but job advertising isn't just job boards. In fact, there's only a percentage of your candidates who are actually actively on the job boards, and about 70% of all job searches start on Google. So if they're going to go to Google and they're going to look for a job there, we got to capture them. And this is a stat I mentioned earlier, that returning job seeker is twice as likely to apply. So how do we take advantage of this? Well, we want to show up in Google advertising. So let me do a quick overview of pay-per-click advertising for those who aren't familiar with it. So the picture you see shows the Google for Jobs box, that blue box, where hopefully your jobs are already appearing because you've done the technical optimization to make them show up. But above that are ads, paid advertising, people who are targeting certain searches that want to be at the top of the search results. And this is a type of search advertising. You can do it on Google, you can do it on Bing, you do it by keywords, you do it by keyword phrases, you can actually target your competitors. So I'm going to run ads based on the kinds of things, jobs that people are searching for, or the companies people are looking for, or other interests they might be searching for that would make them likely to be job seekers. Then there's display advertising. Display advertising is what you do in places like Facebook. Google also has a display advertising network of millions of websites, and a display ad is a graphical ad, as opposed to those text ads you see on screen here that are just above the blue box. These are very visual ads where you can target audiences based on behaviors and interests, by geographic location, by something called a matched audience. So let's say you have a big ATS full of data. Maybe you're using, I don't know, SmartSearch, and you have tens of thousands of names in there. You can export those names, take them over to Facebook, upload the list, match it to people's Facebook profiles, and show ads to people who are in your database to re-engage that talent, to bring them back at a lower cost than if you went and ran more ads on Indeed and ZipRecruiter. You can also do, now this is more limited now, but lookalike audiences. Find more people like my database. For employment ads, unfortunately, about 3 years ago, a lot of lookalike audience capabilities were taken away because people found it to be discriminatory. The reason is, let's say your ATS list happens to be more young people who are working in temp jobs. So you look for a lookalike audience. Your lookalike audiences are going to be young people. That happened, and a bunch of employers got sued for discriminatory advertising because they were targeting younger workers. That was exactly the case. Facebook's solution was, fine, we'll take away the lookalike audience and other targeting capabilities. But I want you to be aware of it, because if you're doing display advertising, maybe for business development, you can use a lot of these techniques. And then retargeting, that's the ads that follow you around the internet. We've all experienced it. You know, you're looking at a car or a sofa, a pair of shoes, and all of a sudden those shoes are following you everywhere. Every website you go on, there's the exact pair of shoes in the color you looked at. That's a retargeting ad. That's one of the best ways to bring people back to your website at a very low cost. So with PPC, remember that ADA. We have to get people's attention because they may be dissatisfied with their current job, with their current company, with their boss, or their life. We have to think about things that will get their attention in the ad design. We have to give them desire, to freedom, more time, happiness. Now, you design ads that should pop out when somebody sees it on a social network, when they see it in part of Google's display network. We also want to think about creating interest with people, getting them to think about, you really have a choice in your career where you work. Give them the fear of missing out. This is one of the best times ever to be looking for a job. And if you wait another 4 months, who knows what the economy is going to look like? Those jobs might be gone. So it's time to find a better position today. Now, small sidebar, I didn't know this when our team made this ad for this company, but people who look happy wearing red attire actually are the #1 way to draw interest. So kudos to our creative team. Maybe they knew that, but there's actually been statistical research done that I read after I saw this ad that said people wearing red get more response. All right, and you can just have fun because fun breaks out. So grandma here is going to be a DJ, but you want to help people find jobs that they love. All right, then we've got that desire. So I'm going to take a job because it pays more, because it's got better benefits, because it's a better location, because it's got more flexibility, because it's remote, because I've got more upward mobility, because it's easy to apply, because there's no risk to me. So these are just some of the things you could sit down with your recruiters and brainstorm. What are all the reasons people would love our jobs, love working for us, love working for our clients, and start tying in some of your clients' value proposition into your advertising and create ads. Show people how you're going to support them in their search. You're going to make it easier. You're going to help them find the job that's exactly what they want. So when they look at your pictures and they read your headlines, they see themselves in your advertising. Now, if you want to know a lot about PPC, I have no way to get through everything in PPC today. We've only got about 25 minutes left, but we do a lot of webinars as well. And one I'm going to recommend was one done by our PPC team. You can go to lunchwithhaley.com and look up one called Winning the Passive Talent Wars. It's on demand, it's free. But this webinar was done by our pay-per-click team, and they spent a whole hour teaching what I just did in the last 5 minutes of how to do paid advertising. All right, strategy number 3, defining your employment brand. So most of you who are in corporate HR hopefully are doing a pretty good job of this, really thinking about your organization's employment brand. And most of you who are in the staffing and recruiting world, well, I'm going to lump you all together. We do a terrible job as an industry. And we're known by the weakest players in our industry as the employment brand. Now, individually, your company could be the best in the world, but we've got to overcome the negative perceptions of staffing. So we really have to be very diligent about creating a great employment brand. An employment brand is really about defining something called an EVP, or employment value proposition. It's answering the essential question: why should people choose you? They can work anywhere right now. Why would they choose you over anyone else? And this, as I just mentioned, think about how you could include your clients as part of your employment brand, because the companies you represent, if you're in staffing or recruiting, they are 100% part of your employment brand. And they can increase the amount of traffic coming to your website. If they've got a well-known brand, they're highly desirable. If you can use their logos, great. If you can use their names, great. Do everything possible to leverage a client that has a great brand. So when thinking about creating an EVP, I found this wonderful diagram. I'd love to take credit for it, but not mine, just found it, and I liked it a lot. But your value proposition happens on 3 levels. The base level is competitive. Do we have decent compensation and benefits? If we're not competitive with the market, don't expect people to apply to your jobs. And if your clients have jobs that are not competitive, you need data to give back to them saying, look, you're not paying market rates. Your benefits aren't what your competitors are offering. Don't run this job and expect that we're going to fill it. You're not meeting the basic contractual obligations that the market has stated right now to hire people. Once the basics are met, now we got to get a level above that. How do you make your jobs differentiated? And that's helping people think about their careers. Just this morning, I had a really great conversation with a client in North Carolina, and he was talking about, and this is in the light industrial world, he goes, nobody treats the light industrial candidate very well. Nobody takes the time to listen to them, to understand their concerns, to treat them as people. He goes, I want my employment brand to be all about the fact that we really do this. We're going to think about their careers. We're going to think about their well-being. We're going to help them deal with the challenges in their lives. We're going to create a different kind of staffing experience for our candidates than our competitors offer. So he's already at this blue level of every job they offer is differentiated because of what their organization is all about. Sometimes you'll have the ability to partner with your clients and create career paths, temp to perm. The fact that maybe somebody can come in at an entry-level job, but quickly move up the ladder because this company is going to need to bring in a lot of people. Or the well-being side, whether it's benefits, emotional well-being, helping people advance in their careers, helping people just deal with life's challenges. Can you create an exceptional experience for your candidates? And the top of the pyramid, this is the hardest one to get to, is are you truly unique in that you have a purpose? You're here for a greater good. There are corporations that exist to do social good. I don't know that I've seen anybody in staffing that exists to do this, but I've seen a lot of examples of companies that have a true mission in life. And that mission is a magnet to attracting good people. So if you can connect with people with a mission, that creates an emotional bond. And that creates probably the strongest employment bond is contractually, hey, you're offering what I want. Experientially, it's going to be great working for you. But emotionally, it's super satisfying to be part of your organization. That's a winning employment brand. So once you've defined your brand, then you got to get your brand found. So you want to increase visibility online and in the real world. And a lot of people, when they think about recruitment marketing, are only thinking about digital. Well, we all are human beings. And despite the fact that we're all on a webinar right now, most of our life is spent in the real world. So what can we do to get people to find us? So let's start with digital, because that's the place most of you are going to start. Social media, paid advertising, SEO, email and texting, reputation management, getting those positive reviews and testimonials, and then using marketing automation to follow up with people. With digital marketing, you're trying to get people you don't know to find you. You're trying to strengthen relationships with people you do know. And really what you're doing with digital marketing is you're building trust. Trust happens from two things. Number one, warmth. You become a very likable organization because people like what your brand stands for. And competence. You're good at doing what you're doing. You have proof that, hey, we're really good as an employer. We're really good at placing people in the right jobs. We treat people well. We have fantastic reviews. When you put warmth and competence together, that creates trust. That creates an employment brand people really want to work with. Your job on social media, your job in digital marketing is to think about who are my audiences? What will they find valuable? What kind of competence do they want to see? What can I do to demonstrate warmth with the audience? And where online can I find and reach them? Then there's the real world stuff, the grassroots, the local marketing. It can be TV and media, buying remnant space. I have a friend in the world of healthcare recruiting, and during the pandemic, he went to local TV stations and said, can I have your remnant space? That's all the stuff they couldn't sell. And he bought all these 15-second commercials. And I remember seeing him on TV and I said, hey, how did this work for your business? He said, you wouldn't believe how many nurses we recruited with this remnant space. This is during the pandemic when nurses were really hard to recruit because everybody wanted them. And he was buying advertising dirt cheap and getting people who were watching TV applying to his job. Outdoor advertising, billboards to car wraps to buses. This is a bus that we helped design for a company in Boston years ago. It's about getting yourself noticed as people are out in the real world. Sometimes this is prohibitively expensive, sometimes not so much. You really need to look in your market. Where do people go? And we see, a bus can be expensive, billboards can be really expensive, but maybe it's the outfield billboard at the Little League, which costs next to nothing to sponsor and be part of the local communities. Maybe you're in small towns, and that's a great thing to support all the community sports. Costs next to nothing to advertise. Great way to be visible in your community. Hiring events. Could be done at your offices, your site, could be done at your client sites, could be done in your community, could be fully mobile, remote events. But can you be creating more local marketing around hiring events to get people, make it easier for people to find the jobs that you have to offer? You know, a number of clients, this bus is not one of them, but they purchased RVs and cars that they wrap to turn them into mobile recruiting centers. And they go to every big event in their community where other people were good enough to pull large audiences together. And then they show up and they use it as the place to help people find better jobs. Community service. I'm also a big fan of this. This is good for PR, which is the next one. It's also really good for increasing visibility. If your team is out there all branded up in your attire, supporting charitable organizations, that helps build your local brand. People will see you and be like, I want to be part of that organization. My company's not doing this. And then even maybe your temporary employees, can they become brand ambassadors? You know, maybe you have 10 internal recruiters and 500 temporaries. Maybe you have 100 internal recruiters and 5,000 temporaries. You have the opportunity to take the best of your temporary workforce, your associates, and say, we want you to be brand ambassadors, and create a program for those people to provide referrals and represent you in the community.
They have a couple questions coming in.
Sure.
So before you jump into here, you know, you've touched a lot on the messaging and the branding, and what are some of the best practices around weaving that idea of purpose and the value proposition into those catchy headlines and happy people wearing red? Like, what do you think are how can that value proposition and purpose be woven into the message? Like, what do you think are the best ways to bring that out?
Great question. And that's probably a hard one to answer succinctly. I would look at some real value-driven organizations to see what they do, but I'd also think about what is the good that you do and how do you distill that value down to a billboard, 7 to 10 words that describes that value. That's the headlines for my social ads. How do I create PR, press releases that tell the story of the good we're doing, and that PR becomes blog posts on my website and things that I distribute to online sources like PR Web that will get the story out to lots of people? How do I get my people trained so that the word tracks the descriptions they're using when they're recruiting, when they're selling? That good that we're doing is just part of our DNA. It's how we talk, it's how we act, it's how we think. And then we also build it into the web pages. So it really, Sylvia, permeates everything you're doing. But I think it starts with figuring out what's that value, get it down to the billboard headline or headlines that you can turn into the phrases people will remember.
Great. Sounds like that's a whole nother webinar, actually.
It absolutely could be.
Okay, the other thing you touched on that picked a lot of interest was the idea of visitors returning, like giving them reasons to come back, right? And how, as well as have those ads that literally follow them around. But what do you think are the best reasons why people come back if they have that job-seeking mindset? Like, what brings people back, and what reasons would be the best to drive them back?
An active job seeker, number one reason to come back is we have new jobs that match your interests, so really targeted job alerts. A passive job seeker, job alerts matter. Market information might matter. Hey, salaries are going up. You want to see what you could make are you being paid what you're worth? So being able to share information that they're not seeing everywhere else. The other thing can be if you've got really valuable content, or maybe you've got an event, you can be inviting people to or sharing. And then as you create new content, could be once a month, could be once a quarter, using email, texting, and automation to tell people about what's new, to give them a reason to come back. So it starts with jobs, market data, other content.
Great. Okay, two more real quick. One is really around diversity. Like you had talked about, the more like this, which actually is kind of a function of our technology in the database. You're able to find more like this, but you touched on brand ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
And while you want to attract people that have similar skills, how can you best convey diversity around that?
So one, if you're doing brand ambassadors, you want to recruit a pool that represents the workforce that you want to put to work. So by and large, that's going to be a diverse group. The nice thing is, you know, these people, so it makes it much easier to recruit people who have the right personality traits. I think that's first and foremost, that they're going to represent you well, and then that they represent that diversity, equity, and inclusion, all different segments of the potential workforce that you would want to go hire. In terms of your advertising, I hate the websites that try to show a graphic that's we are everything to everyone. And so we've got every job title, every race, every ethnicity, every gender in one picture. Instead, think about different personas, different audiences I want to reach, and design different ads so that different kinds of people see themselves. So if I represent older workers, some of my ads feature older workers. If I represent younger workers, some feature younger workers. Any demographic, I can have ads that play to that demographic, but just don't try to be all things to all people in one picture.
Great. Okay, last question. Do you have a resource on where folks can get that programmatic data? Tracking source is obviously so important. So if you're going to be doing, pay per clicks, that is an element that you really have to monitor, right? So that you know what you're paying for and are you reaching the right people. So do you have a resource on where folks can learn more about programmatic job advertising and where to get data around that?
So the quick answer is that there are software companies that's what they do. They provide programmatic platforms. We partner with a company called Appcast. We use their platform, and that aggregates all the data that we use that we provide back to our clients. So that's where you get it, is from the technology vendors that do programmatic advertising, and then they'll integrate their platform with your career site. So as you're going from SmartSearch to your career site out to the job boards, that creates the path back in of all the data.
Great. Thank you. That'll do for now. Feel free to ask more questions, folks. If we don't get to them, we'll try and answer them at the end.
All right. So we talked a little bit about social proof, and that's going to be reviews and testimonials. I think they're fairly self-explanatory, but you want a proactive plan to be getting people to leave you reviews, especially the happy candidates. If you're in corporate HR, you want people on Glassdoor leaving lots of reviews, and then probably Indeed and social sites. If you're in staffing, it's probably going to be Indeed first, Facebook second to leave reviews. Glassdoor is going to be a third, but you need to have a game plan to get those reviews. Otherwise, the reviews are only left by the disgruntled, unplaceable candidates. And they never leave you 5 stars. So we need a game plan to go after the ones we want to get. All right, and I'm going to go a little faster before we run out of time. Strategy 4 is social recruiting. So we've been talking about social media. So some of this is going to overlap with what we're doing, but it's thinking about matching the content with the audience. And Sylvia, this is what we were just talking about. If I want people in my 30s and 40s, it's probably Facebook. 20s and 30s, Facebook and Instagram. Early 20s, TikTok and Instagram. I want professionals, LinkedIn. So I want to think about the audiences I'm trying to reach and where they are. So I'm create the right location and the right kinds of content. This is an example of, here's the same ad from the same company, different looking people in the ads, so that people who are skimming through social media and seeing this ad, different people are going to see themselves in these ads. That value proposition, you asked, how do you promote it? Well, you think about the billboard, the headlines. Here's 2 companies promoting their value proposition, both out of Dallas, Texas, completely different views of the world, how they want to be seen as an employer. And just looking at the 2 pictures, you get a completely different feel for each company. Getting people to think about new job opportunities. So going through all of the benefits, the value of that better life. Sometimes it's tangible, cash, benefits. Sometimes it's flexibility. Sometimes it's just that quality of life that you make, giving people freedom. I know we did some work with pharmacists and recruiting for pharmacists. And a big thing of it was avoiding the corporate red tape that comes from working in big box stores. And by working as a contract pharmacist, people would have a much higher quality of life. And matching the channel to the audience. Again, thinking about where they live, how you design the ads, what the ads look like. This is a company that recruits college athletes as they graduate. So their ads don't look at all like recruiting ads. They look like everything they do looks like college athletes, because that's their audience. So often we're thinking about advertising from what we do as a staffing company or we do in recruiting, but we have to think about the ads from what our people are doing when they're online and what they're thinking about and what's going to engage their brain. With social media, what we're trying to do is think about a conversion path. The goal of social media is to get people to go usually to your website. There is more direct response advertising we can do on social, but generally when we're sharing content, we're trying to get people to a website, and then the website has to convert them to take an action. So the website should probably be a very specific landing page. And the page you see helped this particular company increase their conversion rate of traffic from about 8.7% to 28% of the candidates coming from social then took an action by having a really well-designed landing page that drives the appropriate actions people would want to take based on what they saw on social media. It may be confusing, but it's that path. I see this, therefore I want to do that. We have to give them that path. So with social media, one last strategy is to think not just about your company, but your recruiters. Are you working with your individual recruiters to help them build their personal brands? Because so much recruiting is person to person. And if you have one recruiter or 100, it's not just about your company and your value proposition, it's your recruiters and how well they treat people. Because in a lot of industry segments, the recruiter brand dominates the company brand. And when you're on social media, the recruiter's reach organically is going to blow away a company's reach, because the social networks recognize that they make money by charging businesses to get their message to people. So it costs a lot of money to get your message to people when it's from a business page. When it's from a personal page, you get a lot more free organic distribution. All right, with our last few minutes, we're going to talk about our final strategy, automation. So integrating automation tools with your ATS to do database cleansing, making sure you're keeping data up to date, contact information, skills and interests, preferences, about re-engaging talent. So getting somebody who has been inactive for a long time to come back and be active again, nurturing campaigns to stay top of mind, updating contact information. It's also about improving the candidate experience. So am I staying in touch with people throughout their journey from visiting my website to applying to a job, to coming in for an interview, to going out on an assignment? Are we having an automated process to ensure via email, via texting, via nudges to the recruiter, we're providing the best possible experience to every single candidate every single time? So this can be at every stage, pre-apply, post-apply, even after the end of an assignment. On the pre-apply, some things people can do. There are tools out there in the industry, chatbots, Sense, Staffing Engine, Olivia by Paradox. We offer a chatbot as well that allow you to engage with people who are visiting your website when you're not there, or when the person has questions and they're not ready to apply. Website CRO, conversion rate optimization. Do we have really good offers, and do we write our content in a way that funnels people to the actions we want them to take? Are we using marketing automation? So when people visit our website, tools like HubSpot and ActiveCampaign, whereas Sense exists once somebody's already inside your ATS, HubSpot and ActiveCampaign exist around your website to automate follow-up via text, email. You can even personalize web pages so somebody coming back gets content that's relevant to them. Are we doing nurturing, having a game plan so that on a consistent basis, we are staying in touch with every single candidate to get them to come back time and time again and to refer their friends? Post-apply, once they've applied, now how do we stay with them throughout the entire process? When they're applying, scheduling the interview, through the job offer and acceptance, through their first day, through their second day, through the end of the week and their check-ins, through the end of assignment and redeployment. And what you think about with automation is all of these workflows, the communication flows that normally a recruiter would have to remember to do all of these things themselves. Can I build these workforce automations into the platform so that the recruiter doesn't have to remember to do this stuff? And if you have 10 candidates on assignment or 10,000, the software automates those touch points. All right, wrapping it up, our last few seconds. The talent crisis, it's here to stay. Demographic trends say we're going to have a workforce that's smaller than demand for years to come, regardless of what happens in the economy. And that's a good thing for the staffing industry. To win the talent wars, We have to think about the fact that remote and gig work has fundamentally changed the way people work. That's why flexibility is so in demand. We're competing for talent on a global scale, but we can also now source globally. And for a lot of people in staffing, or if you're in corporate HR, you can think about what used to be local, fill the job. Now maybe I use some local, some contract, some freelance. I use some that are here in town, some that are remote, some that are from around the world. And it's particularly for the staffing companies, part of your value proposition in the coming years is going to be helping companies to put together those staffing plans that get the right people from wherever they are and employed through the methods that the client, the employer, wants to hire them. The staffing companies of the future, they're going to be experts at helping companies get work done, where and how it's done, and when it's done most cost effectively. So to win the wars, our final reminders: know who you want to reach, know your target audience, understand why they care about you and the jobs you offer, give them a reason to take action now. Think about ADA. Connect with them where they are, online and in the real world. Go big on digital, but don't forget thinking about all the places we can find people when they're out of their homes. Don't lose the people you already paid to get. Improve the response to your website, improve the strength of your relationships, and take advantage of all the tools that are in your recruitment marketing toolbox. All right, Sylvia, we're at the end. We're also at time. I'd be happy to stand for questions, but while we're doing that, I brought up a lot of issues today. If you'd like to get some questions to ask about your own recruitment marketing, go to this URL and download the Smart Recruiting Checklist. There's 194 questions that can help you evaluate all of the strategies we talked about today to figure out where are there opportunities for improvement.
Yeah. David, thank you. A masterful job. I mean, it's apparent that this is a science for you that you've taken on over a quarter century, and it's just really well done. You know, I think testament to that, we had a lot of registrants for this webinar. Thank you, Tyler, for making that happen. And, you know, well over 100. And the majority of those people attended, and 90% of the people that were on this webinar today stayed. So I think that's testament to the fantastic job. I think that if somebody can get 5 tips out of the dozens and dozens and dozens that you've offered today, and it's a good day and it's well worth it. So we have this. And Sylvia, thank you so much for by the way, for moderating the questions. There were more questions. We're going to offer, obviously they can go to this book where the 194 different questions are available to review. We've recorded this, and we plan on distributing this. David will certainly give you a copy so you can distribute to your constituents and your customers. And we plan on doing the same with all the registrants here today. So David, thank you so much. Fantastic presentation today. We really appreciate it. Any parting thoughts?
Just really appreciate the opportunity. If anybody would like the slides, guys, I'll be happy to get them to you, and you can share with your audience. So I know there was a lot of notes to take, and particularly at the end, I went a little fast because we were running out of time.
Fantastic job. Thank you so much for attending, everybody. We packed a lot of information. Thanks to David in a short amount of time. Your SmartSearch rep or the person who invited you will give you more information, including the slides and the video. You can also look for this on our blog. We look forward to seeing you in our next webinar, and have a great day, everyone. Thanks again.
Thank you.